Hello, welcome to the Pedestal Wife Society. My name is Brill. If this is the first time you've been in one of my live streams, welcome to the Pedestal Wife Society. So I'm going to wait until the room fills up on Instagram and YouTube. Right now, I am streaming on both. That will not last long. It takes too much work to stream from YouTube and Instagram. All that I ask for my Pedestal Wives and my Inner Circle members, can I have you to please check on me on YouTube to make sure that you can hear me and see me? One of the things I hate doing is going live and then finding out later on that there is no audio or there is no video. And it has happened before. So I'm going to wait until you get in the room and join me on this conversation that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about how to stop mothering a man and killing your polarity. Daisy B, hey, can hear and see you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure why you are here. It's probably not the right space for you to be in because we're not about to play here. We're about to go in and have a real conversation. If you are one of these women or men that you participate in any type of gender war, this is Switzerland. And I want you to treat it as such. And if you can't do so, this is probably not space for you. I'm not sure why it is so hard to do something on Instagram. That is the reason why it is hard to even remove people on Instagram. That's the reason why I will not be completing the live stream on Instagram. I will be completing on YouTube, where it is my space and it is a space where I can help and assist the Pedestal Life community and the Inner Circle. If you want to be a part of this conversation, you can just click the link in the stories and it will take you over to the YouTube. But hello, welcome, Pedestal Wives, Inner Circle members. Hey, Amina. Hey, Hessie B. Hey, thank you all for being over into the YouTube space. I appreciate you all. Hello, Ink Sam, you too. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So let's jump right on in it, because I think we are living in a time currently where I'm not going to put the blame solely on women for the reason why they mother. I'm going to put this social programming that is out here on social media and also within our friendship group circles, where we look at men as though they're bumbling fools or they're incompetent or they can't take care of themselves or any children. With that mentality, we go into these relationships with this idea that he's going to be incompetent. And when we approach it like that, we make vital mistakes when it comes to dating. And we end up putting ourselves in that mothering energy. So let's talk about the mothering energy. Because when I hear women talk about mothering energy, they think it's only feminine energy, that there's no aspects of masculine energy. Yes, of course, mothering energy is an aspect of feminine energy, but it also has some masculine energy also. Let me give you an example of how it's supposed to be utilized, and it's supposed to be utilized with children. It's supposed to be utilized with our offspring. So when you have a child, maybe you don't have one, maybe you do have one. When you have a child and you're in that mothering energy, when you give comfort to that child and you nurture that child, that is in the feminine energy. When you create schedules so that your child can get enough sleep or have a bedtime or go, have a nap at lunch, that is masculine energy, because you have to plan that. You have to make sure your child is on some type of schedule. So what happens here, since we live in a time where men are considered to be incompetent, and we make fun of that and we post on social media daily about how incompetent men are, how men cannot do simple things or take care of their children. And so from that aspect, we take that into dating. And I'm going to give you a couple of ways that you probably have made this mistake in dating that you don't realize. You don't recognize that this is a mistake, and this is going to lead to a man being passive, because there's a middle ground. There's feminine energy, there's masculine energy, and then there's a middle ground. A lot of men who have fallen in love with a woman and allowed this woman to mother him, what happens is they get into passivity. And being in passivity is neutral. It means they sit down. It means they shut down. These are the men that you are, when you see this couple, you might hear her say or him say, yes, dear, no, dear, it's fine, dear, okay, dear. The only response that he has learned is to say yes and to go along with whatever she asks him to do. And we make a vital mistake, an important mistake, in encouraging that energy while we're dating. The very first thing that we do is when you give a man a problem, we're supposed to allow him to solve it. But when you're in this mothering energy, and when you have this mentality that men are incompetent, that you have to lead them, that they don't know what they're doing, we tend to want to solve it for them. And it starts as soon as, and I've seen it pop up in some of my live streams where I've seen women and they ask me how to ask him for something. They ask how to suggest for him to do something I want him to do. And the first thing I'll tell you every single time is give him a problem and let him solve it. But when you don't want to let him solve it, or you feel like that you can solve it better, you get, that is mothering energy. And we don't even recognize it. We do it a lot, and we do it unconsciously because we are in a time where women don't respect men. They don't respect men. They don't respect what men bring to the relationship. And since they don't respect men, and we have this outside programming where men are incompetent, that if you leave them alone with the children aren't going to make it, the house is going to be torn apart. We don't even realize that we've made one vital mistake in the very beginning. And this encourages mothering. And I know you're like, well, Braille, couldn't he decide or stand up for himself and say, I don't want to be mothered? The men that will not be mothered do. The men that love you, adore you, some of them will. And they're the ones that encourage men not to get married because they love her, but they don't want to leave her. They love her and they want her to be happy. And they realize really quickly, in order to make her happy, is that she has to solve, lead, plan. And as long as he is going along with her plan, then everything is a-okay. And they also complain. They complain about this dynamic, but it's the dynamic that they signed up for. It is the dynamic that they wanted to be a part of until it wasn't. And the reason for that, why they get tired of it, why it gets old, is because of polarity. Polarity is attraction. It requires for you to have the feminine and the masculine. It's almost like opposites attract. When both of you are either similar or maybe he's neutral, the attraction dies. And so there's a lack of polarity, and women, we recognize it pretty quickly that there's no attraction, and we want to pull away, and we don't understand what's happening, especially if you haven't come across this type of information, or maybe you haven't indulged in finding more about the feminine and the masculine, so you don't know. Or you don't have any friends that's in this world, because there's still a lot of women who still reject it. There's still a lot of women who reject the feminine and the masculine conversation and say that it's useless or it has no value. So if you're part of that world, of course you wouldn't realize that you're making vital mistakes while you're dating. You don't realize that when you are jumping in to solve that problem, and instead of you accepting the way he solves it, you want to figure out how he can solve it in the way that you would solve it and the way that you would do it. And this also encourages mothering. Like I said, we have some men that will reject you because of the mothering. And then we have some men that fall in love, because men do fall in love, and then they will pursue it with you. And you can both end up being in a relationship where there is no attraction, where y'all are just friends. It's smooth, it's easy, but y'all are just friends. There's no sparks, there's no butterflies, there's no attraction towards each other. And that kills your polarity. So that is the very first mistake that women make while dating. You do not allow him to solve anything. You try to solve it for him. And if he solves it, you don't like the way he solves it, you keep pushing for a different outcome. And this is mothering. Another way that we mother unknowingly and unconsciously is through these percentage marriages. We mother through percentage marriages, because marriages do not have a percentage. There is no percentage attached to marriage. But when you decide, I'm going to be in a 50-50 relationship, I'm going to be in a 90-20 relationship, I'm going to be an 80-30 relationship, these are percentages. And with the feminine, you cannot be transactional. Her feeling as though she's in a transactional relationship absolutely encourages her masculine energy to come forth. And a part of her masculine energy is that mothering energy. So let me figure out how to plan and how to jump in and tell you how the finances are going to be ran. Let me jump in and tell you how you need to solve these problems. Let me jump in and tell you how it needs to be done. So these percentage marriages, I'm not saying that if you are a couple that the only you cannot even be together if you need to have to work for a while to be together, because I know some couples do that, but I'm just saying the percentage marriages that you all have adapted is not going to be conducive to healthy relationship and polarity. And it's also the best way to bring in that mother energy. It's the best way to put that woman in that energy where she's going to want to plan the finances a little bit more and jump in and have control over the finances a little bit more than a man would like. Okay, so I would suggest, and I didn't come up with this suggestion either, so I'm not going to take and say it was my plan. I am going to say, I think the universe guru, she came up with a great, a great plan. Instead of using the percentage marriages that we're adapting out here because you need or y'all are working together, you start out very young, because this is what's going to happen. You start out young. If you start out young, y'all are going to be working together to get where you're going. But a percentage marriage is not the way to go, because that is where our highest divorce rates are coming from. If a man is at least able to take care of, I think the way she put it, I don't want to misquote her or say anything wrong. Some of you follow her also. You can drop it down in the comment section. But she said that as long as a man is taking care of the shelter, the food, the clothing, your water, your safety, your security, the feminine can feel safe in that dynamic, in that relationship. And that eliminates the need for having a percentage marriage. And I absolutely agree, because looking at the data and the statistics and the information, percentage marriages definitely have a higher divorce rate. Let your man be your man. We don't like the mothering thing. It can get annoying. Not only is it annoying to a man, it also kills the polarity. So the attraction, the seduction, the surprises, the gifts that comes out of a man being attracted to you. So if you all don't have any polarity, and like I said, polarity, when it comes down to it, if he is in a state of neutral, you can have the masculine, you can have the feminine, but there's a space that's called neutral. And this means this person is set down. This person is shut down. This person is operating robotically. And if you realize there's a lot of couples that you can find this dynamic with. And I can tell you, it starts with the mothering. It starts with when you give him a problem, instead of you accepting the solution, you are pushing for a solution that's going to be what you want and what you desire. And I know I always say you can give a suggestion. Give a suggestion. Nothing wrong with giving a suggestion. But a lot of us don't know the difference between giving a suggestion or solving the problem. We don't know the difference between, hey, what about us going over here to this restaurant? I've heard it's really good. It's got a good review. Versus, I want to go to this restaurant. That's where I want to go, and that's it. That's fine. But we can't be, it's our way or the highway. When we start with that, that is a form of mothering that no one talks about. So getting in a relationship and not being able to accept the solution, because I've met tons of clients that cannot accept the solution. They want it solved in a way that they would do it. And unfortunately, when you are in a relationship with another person, another being, you have to accept that they have a different viewpoint. And if you don't like their viewpoint, you don't like the way that they solve things, then that is not your person. It's just that simple. When you get in relationships and you are trying to change them and make them over and mold them over into something else, that is another form of mothering. When you're trying to change them and you cannot accept them where they are. Percentage marriages is another form of mothering. It's when it comes to that portion, the reason that is another form of mothering is because of the fact that is the mother coming in to help the son. And this throws off the polarity in the relationship. A woman, the feminine, wants to feel as though she's taken care of. The feminine wants to feel as though she's secure and stable. If she feels as though she has to pay any percentage for her home, her clothing, her food, her water, her shelter, then she feels that she is not secure or stable. And then when she has to do that, what's going to happen? Her masculine is going to rise, and she's going to want to plan, guide, and mother him, and in order to get him to do the things that she feels will get her out of that position. And she's going to push a lot harder too to have that happen. So those are the things that we women tend to do very early on in a relationship. When you go in and you ask him to solve that problem, you ask him. So I had a question come up recently, was about getting a Uber from a date, and I don't think during that conversation that that person could really accept that they may say no, or that they may solve the problem in a way that they're not going to want it done. And that is the thing. If this person does not solve problems in a way that you can accept, then you need to find a new person. You need to find the person that you can work with, the person that you are going to be comfortable being able to handle these situations with. Because if you get into a relationship and you all get into the years, like years tend to fly by when you're having fun. And social media, I feel like, has so many examples of women mothering in their relationship and killing their polarity. If you were to go over to any social media platform, I'm quite sure you can find one woman that's talking about how incompetent her husband is, talking about how her husband doesn't clean up after himself, or her husband doesn't take out the trash, or husband doesn't do a number of things. And if you were to actually quiz her and ask her, how did it start out? How did it begin? Is this how he started, or is this how he's ending? Because how you start is how you end normally. We don't recognize it, that in the very beginning, we're mothering. We're mothering, and we're putting it off in small ways, just by not accepting the solution, trying to make sure that we solve the problem in the way that we can solve the problem, only the way that we can do it, because we feel like we're the only ones that can solve the problem. And we do this very easy, very quickly in the very beginning. Percentage marriages, we jump into those very quickly. When marriages will not sustain itself based off a percentage. There's no way to estimate that. There's no way to make it fair. There's no way to make it equal. So it definitely, that's one of the reasons why it does not have the longevity that a more traditional marriage has, because a percentage marriage, especially when it comes to the feminine, it leads her to try to figure out how to protect herself and how to get the security and stability that she desires, especially if he is not taking care of those essential needs. If her essential needs are not being met, and y'all are in a percentage marriage, and she has to literally split the soap, split the water, split the shelter, and she's doing these things for herself, then that masculine energy is going to automatically kick in, where she's going to feel like she needs to do something in order to obtain the security and stability that's needed, even if it means going over the man that she is with. If it means going over him, she will do that. She will go over his head in order to get things done, so she can get that feeling of security and stability. The feminine desires that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close out the Instagram, because it's hard to actually focus on the topic and focus on both screens. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the Instagram, and I'm going to finish up over YouTube. If you want to join the conversation, just come over to YouTube. All right, so yes, he finally in line from the beginning. Hey, Joy. Yes, you're correct. Absolutely. When it comes to mothering is not conducive to attraction. There's nothing wrong with suggesting. It's nothing wrong with having a voice and speaking up for yourself. I absolutely tell women to make sure that they are doing that, because a man is not a mind reader. But you have to realize when you're going too far, when only thing you're doing is trying to solve it in the way that you would do it, and not in the way that's going to work out for both of you, where it's going to be mutually beneficial. And when you get into that mothering energy, and like I said before, mothering energy is a combination of feminine and masculine energy. In order to be effective and be a good mother, you have to have a handle over both. But when you're in this dynamic with the first date, it starts at the first date. When you're dealing with a man and you cannot accept the way he solves something, accept the way he wants to do something. And only thing you think along the lines of trying to change him or mold him or recreate him or make him into somebody else, he may not be your person. He may not be your person because you don't want to trap yourself into being the mother to a man. There's plenty of women on social media who they've done that to themselves. They have trapped themselves with the energy of mothering, and their husbands have become their child. You don't want to have to always have to plan and guide and show and teach. You don't want to have to always step into that role. And the more you step into that role, the less you will be attracted to him. The less that you will feel like doing any type of fun things with him when you look at him as though he's your child. The more that he's in that place of being your child and you're in the place of being the mother, the less attraction you will have towards him, because it is the law of polarity. The law of polarity means that one person has to have the feminine pole and one person has to have the masculine pole. And of course, the neutral pole does exist. And there are some couples that love the friendship pole, and that's the neutral. Being in the friendship and having that energy of friendship around both of you, that can put you in neutral, where y'all don't have any attraction. Y'all don't have any attraction, and some couples are happy with that. They don't desire anything more. They are happy and content in that type of lifestyle with friends. But most of us in the feminine, we desire the men to be in the masculine. We don't want him to get into the place of neutral where he's in passive and he's sitting down and he's shut down. These are the men that these are the couples that you come across, and the man is literally just carrying her bags and it's okay, dear. Yes, dear. That's fine, dear. He never objects to anything she offers. And women, as a feminine, we like the spice of life. We like to have that attraction. We like him to take that lead and to seduce and to plan and to guide and to teach and to offer us. We offer us stuff and to offer us not only just his time, his finances, his care, his consideration. We want all of it as the feminine. What I've described the feminine as being very greedy and having narcissistic tendencies. But when you're in that mothering energy, there's being a mother. And I know some women in this live stream, on this platform, you're not mothers. So being a mother requires you to have a plan for your child and also be able to comfort your child. So you have to be able to have mothering energy balance between that feminine and masculine. So when you are constantly having to step outside of that and constantly having to mother him and constantly having to tell him what to do, constantly having to plan and make his appointment, and you have to constantly chase him down to get things done. These are the women that you see on social media every single day. They have that mothering energy, and their husbands are in that passive energy. Their husbands are in that neutral energy. If you've ever looked in the eyes of a man who's in that passive neutral energy, he has dead eyes. You can always tell what type of marriage it is based off the eyes of the man, because he is not there. He is not present. He is not engaged. He is just going to say yes, no, okay, that's fine. It gets frustrated based off of the situation. And she starts to not feel attracted to him. She starts to pull away from him. And she starts to complain about a situation that they're currently in. But I'm starting to see that a lot of women make some of the biggest mistakes in the very beginning of their relationship. If we can catch those mistakes, you can avoid mothering your man altogether. When you are dealing with the man and you give him a problem and he gives you a solution, and maybe the solution that he gives is not the solution that you care to hear. You suggest something to him, not solve, you suggest, and he still sticks with the original solution. Either you will accept it or you will decide that he is not your person, because you're not going to be able to work well with him. Because you cannot get in that energy of trying to figure out how to change him, how to get him to solve problems just like you would solve problems, how to get him to do things like you would do. This is mothering energy, because I want you to think along the lines of this is correction energy. When you were growing up as a young woman, your mother had to correct you in certain things so that you would be the young woman, the young lady that you are. She had to tell you how to eat your food. She had to tell you how to enter a room. She had to tell you how to walk like a lady. She had to tell you what outfits and dresses and clothing looks good on you and would show you and present you to be a lady that you are. This is all correction. And so when a woman gets into that mothering energy, correction is a part of it. And you find yourself correcting your husband, trying to change him, trying to get him to do things like you would do it. And that seems to be the number one thing that I see women do in marriages. And that is the reason why the marriages are failing, because she's trying to get him to do it like she would do it, solve it like she would solve it. She feels like she's always right, that she knows the only way to do something. And I'm going to tell you a little advice that my grandmother gave me a long time ago when I came with the same type of energy. Okay. She told me there's multiple ways to skin a cat. You just got to be opening. You have to be open to those multiple ways of skinning a cat. Never get so content in doing one thing one way. As women, we tend to do that. And especially when you're in that mothering energy, you tend to get stuck in doing things in a specific way. And you don't want to accept any different ways of doing things. But this is a part of the feminine being flexible and being open. When you're being flexible and being open, you're open to different ways to handling situations. And this way you don't fall into the trap of mothering and getting into correction and getting into solving the problem and you get into planning and leading. You can avoid all of that if you look at these things in the very beginning. You can look at, am I trying to solve the problem? Because I don't want to accept that this is the way to solve the problem or the way that he would solve the problem. I want the problem solved in the way that I want the problem solved. If that is the issue, I want you to take a step back and look at that. And then I want you to be very wary of these percentage marriages. I'm never going to say that if you marry young, this is just the reality of things. And I'm going to tell you, I've never shied away from the reality of it. The reality of things, if you marry too young, he's not going to have the finances to take care of you in a traditional manner 100%. So you may have to, instead of dealing with the percentage marriages and going with a 50-50 or an 80-30 or 90-20, I want you to consider making sure that he at least fulfills the essential needs. He takes care of your clothing, your shelter, your food, your water, and he does the essential needs at least until he's able to take care of everything 100%. And this advice just goes for my young pedestal wives who are going to get married to men that pretty much their age, because I'm just going to be honest, some women that are marrying very young, they will have to deal with that. That will be their reality. But if they can just shy away from percentage marriages so they don't fall into the trap of mothering a man and raising a man, let me tell you something that a friend told me that destroyed her in a marriage. And since they had started young, she did have to work some while they were creating a life for themselves. They're not together anymore, by the way. But he told her that she had raised him, and that destroyed her. And that is also another reason why she felt no polarity towards him, and she couldn't figure out why. It's because of the work that I do on social media and the work that I do with my clients that I was able to point out when he said that, you recognize that something is off there. Our intuition, our spiritual energy, the God in us, we can sense when something is off. And she did sense when something was off, and she kind of pulled back and she pulled away. And of course, they ended up not being together. And that is because she realized, okay, I was going into a percentage relationship. Percentage marriage, I know some of y'all don't believe in marriage, and I'm going to tell you, I do. I absolutely do wholeheartedly believe in marriage. Some people talk about badly about marriage. I feel like it's one of the best things I ever did in my life was marry well and have children. But I feel like this is something that I desire for myself, my own personal beliefs, my own personal wants. And you need to decide what is for you, what is going to be best for you overall. But mothering begins in the very beginning. You want to stop yourself from getting in that space where you are trying to solve his problems or solve the problem. You want to get away from that space where you're accepting percentage marriages and realize that as the feminine, you desire at least the essential needs, especially if you're young. If you're a little older, he should be established and he should be able to offer you a more traditional lifestyle. But mothering kills that polarity. So the more that you try to tell him what to do, try to solve his problems, try to make his appointments and remind him of them, the more that you step in when you are not needed. And that's what I want to say. Step in when you are not needed. Because when we give certain examples, we forget context. And I don't want to generalize when it comes to this. I want you to understand, if he didn't ask you, don't do it. Because when you start taking the initiative and stepping it into a role or into a position where he didn't ask you to be so, this is another form of mothering that we don't realize. Instead of him, you know that he has to make an appointment to the dentist, and you take the initiative to go ahead and make that appointment, go ahead and schedule everything, get everything set up with the insurance, and then you let him know this is mothering. This is something you would do for your child. If he's your child, then you will go in, of course, and make that appointment, make sure they get to that dentist and get everything done and make sure everything is top tier and in great condition. But when you do this for a man and he has not asked you to make this move, he's not asked you to do anything, you are already mothering. When you're taking the initiative to do things and you have not been asked to do so, you're mothering. And I know that's a hard stance, but I know that when I give you examples, you have to have context. And I'm going to go ahead and put it back on him. If he doesn't want you to do that, you shouldn't be doing it. Don't go and take the initiative. That is what mothers do. Me as a mother, I'm going to take the initiative to make a doctor's appointment for my child if I see them having a cough or if I see them sick. I'm going to do that as a mother because I know that they need me to do that because they're not adults. But, well, I have only one child that's not an adult yet that I will actually step in and do that for. But when you do this for a man, that's mothering. And they don't really like it. They may accept it. Like I said, there's more than one energy. It can be masculine, it can be feminine, but there's always that neutral. And from social media and the videos that I'm starting to see, I truly do believe that a lot of them have passive men. And they're in neutral and they're in mothering. And that's the reason why they have so many complaints about what a man is doing and how he's solving the problem and how he's taking care of certain issues. I literally just got off looking at a video that someone sent me where the young woman was going in about I think it was a water bill. And she was talking about he hadn't paid it yet. And he hadn't done that yet. And she was talking about a situation where she could have just let him to do it. She could have left it in his lap to get done, but I think she wanted it done when she wanted it done. And that's also where we need to have some patience too. We have to have some patience. When you want it done, you will end up overstepping. You're stepping into a position or into a role that you should not be in. When you want it done your way, you'll do that also. And this is mothering. Like when I hear go on social media and they talk about mothering, I usually see examples about making an appointment or doing things or calling, sending his mom gifts and he didn't ask, or doing these little things. Well, I'm going to tell you, if he didn't ask, don't do. Don't overstep. Because when we overstep, we're in that mothering energy to do so. We're wanting to get it done. Or when we can't accept the way he solved the problem, we're in that mothering energy. Especially if we've already suggested and he just comes back with something that we don't want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the questions. If you have questions, this is the perfect time to drop them. But we definitely want to make sure that from the very beginning, we want to start how we end. We want to make sure that we're not overstepping our boundaries and we're not stepping into a role that is not ours. We want to make sure that we allow the masculine to be the masculine and let him show up as the masculine. And we don't want to cut him off at the knees. And women can do that. The more that he's in love with you, the more it's easy for a woman to cut a man off at the knees once he's in love. Because once he's in love and he's committed and he's in union, you can easily reset or reset that energy where you're the mother and he is neutral. All right, so I know that there's a lag. I'm just trying to give everybody opportunity to drop any questions or any comments that you have that you really want to talk about. As long as we kind of stay focused on this topic. Oh, and the opposite is true. When a woman only says yes, it kills a relationship. Absolutely. I agree with that. When a woman says only yes and she doesn't speak up for herself, that's the reason why I say just know the difference between suggesting and solving. There's nothing wrong if he solves a problem in a way that's not going to be desirable for you. Okay, not because of the fact that only you feel like you're the only one that can solve the problem. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, hey, this is you know that there's a better way and you want to suggest it. But once it's suggested, I will only suggest once. I'm not going to constantly try to reinvent the suggestion so I can get the outcome that I desire. I'm not going to do that. That is also another form of mothering, of just continuing to not allow him to solve the problem. And I'm getting in dangerous territory there where he is not going to show up in the way that he needs to show up in this relationship. Because like I said, it's more than just masculine energy available in a man. You can literally have a man that's not only, there's the expression, I lost it already, but you can literally have a man that is shut down. He's passive, he's not engaged, he's not present. And I'm quite sure you probably can, if you really think about couples that you came across, I guarantee you've probably seen a lot of them. You've came across men that are so passive and they're just shut down. They're not there. They're not present. They're not engaged. And then you see her, she's so animated. She's so animated. She's so, there and present in that moment. But he is not. He is passive. How do you shift out of the mothering energy? Okay, you're going to reset the polarity. So if you want to shift out of mothering energy because you make that mistake and you weren't aware, this is what you're going to do. Now you're going to take a step back. You're going to take a step back and give him space to show up in the masculine. And let me give you an example of that. Let's say you've always made his appointment. You've always made his doctor's appointment. He's never made his doctor's appointment. As soon as y'all start the relationship, as soon as y'all have some form of commitment, you will call his doctors and making appointments. Now it's time for you to step back. Now it's time for you to step back into suggesting versus trying to make the appointments for him. And versus trying to remind him. Instead of you doing that, just step back. If he misses his appointment, he just misses his appointment. You can say, oh, well, you know what? Maybe definitely next time you can give him a suggestion. Maybe in order to make sure you don't miss your appointments, you might be able to just create a calendar. Like put the onus back on him. Put it back in his hands. Maybe he's been handling the role and being very passive and neutral for so long in a relationship that the only thing that's going to wake him up if you step back. And this may mean during this process, guess what? You may have to deal with things not running smoothly like you're used to. And I know some of us who have that type A energy where we like to get everything done. We want our homes to look a certain way. In this process to reset that polarity, you may have to let that go a little bit and relax so that you can get things back where there's actual energy and attraction between you two. Get it back where you shift it back into the feminine and he shifted into the masculine, away from neutral. He's not neutral anymore. You want him back into the masculine energy. You're going to have to lean back instead of trying to lean forward. Instead of doing all the things that you've done to kind of keep everything running, and the roles that you know are masculine roles, you need to start leaning back on them. That's how you're going to shift out of that mothering energy. And you're going to start putting the onus back on him. Instead of making his appointment, you're going to suggest that he gets his appointment on a calendar. Instead of reminding him of engagements that you have, you can go back to the calendar idea, or that you can be like, oh, you can talk about the fact that you're going to enjoy that event, but this lets him know that the things that you were going to do to set up for the event, you will no longer do. Because what we do even in that mothering energy, since it's somewhat feminine and somewhat masculine, we tend to go in and try to solve the problem, make sure everything's together. We put the structure together. I want you to remove the structure. The structure that you currently have created for him so he can be passive and he can be neutral, remove it. And that's how you're going to shift out of that mothering energy. Instead of I want you to really define in your head, in your energy, in your spirit, the things that you're going to show up for. And I want it to be along the lines of feminine energy and not the mothering energy. If you're used to nagging him, and nagging is somewhat mothering. Don't y'all tell your children sometime to go get those toys and you tell them over and over and over? Nagging is mothering energy also when it comes to a man. So instead of you falling back to nagging and complaining, I want you to remove that. I want you to stop doing that. I want you to give him that space to show up and get out of that neutral space that he's in. Because some men, it has nothing to do with him being in the feminine. Some of them just in neutral. They are passive. And that's what you want him out of, that passive. Remove the structure. Stop doing everything for him and fall back into the feminine. And give him the opportunity to show up for you instead of you show up for him. That is how you're going to remove that mothering energy that he's been relaxing in and being passive in, and he's shut down in. He's used to you organizing his life. Stop organizing his life. He's used to you doing the reminders. Stop reminding him. He's used to you nagging him to get something done. Stop doing it. Pull back. Give that energy. Instead of focusing that energy on him, if you have kids, focus it on kids. If you don't have kids, focus it on your nieces and nephews. If you don't have nieces and nephews, find a child somewhere and focus the energy there. How do you work on being open to his way when you're so used to yours? Good question, Joy, because I feel like that's another issue that women have. The longer that you are by yourself, you've gotten good at taking care of yourself. You've gotten good at making sure you have everything that you need. And sometimes it can be hard to let someone in and let someone assist you and let someone help you. The thing is, what you want to do is, since you're not used to it, I want you to begin to get used to it. How about this? Instead of you always trying to solve your problems, give him something that he can solve. See, men like to be needed. And when they're not needed, they shut down. They become very passive. They get in that neutral energy. A lot of women are not dealing with feminine men. They're dealing with passive men. They're dealing with neutral energy. And they don't know what to do. They don't know that they need to reset the polarity and just pull back and remove all structure that you've given him, because he's dependent on you to give him that structure. He's dependent on you to remind him when he has appointments. He's dependent on you to nag him when something isn't right. He's dependent on you to complain to get something done when he's taking too long. I want you to stop. And since if you're not used to it, to doing that, I want you to start to allow a man to solve your problems. And that will help you to be more open. The more that he goes in and solves your problem, the more that he shows up for you, the more open you will become, the more relaxed you will become. So start there. Start with letting him solve your problem. Start with giving him a problem and allowing him to solve it. When you ask about updates of issues he's currently solving, is that mothering? See, the thing is, you're still checking in. What do we do with our kids? We check in and see, did you complete that homework? Did you do your chores? We do the reminder thing. We tend to request updates, and that's still mothering. I want you to think along the lines, if I'm a mom and I have a child, the things that I would do. And those things, I want you to eliminate those things with men. I want you to stop doing those things with men today. Women do these things unconsciously because we have been taught, we've been conditioned to actually do these things with men, because first it starts with the decision. We've decided that men are incompetent and they're bumbling fools. And since we've made that decision, we tend to operate from that space. And we begin at the very beginning, we start like this, we start mothering. And it kills the polarity. We're doing little things like nagging him and complaining to him and solving things for him. And this can either put him, yes, it can push him to the feminine, but I guarantee you majority of men are not feminine. Okay? Usually the ones that are feminine, they don't like you. They don't, the men that are feminine, they don't like you in the first place. The men that are in, most of the men that women have is neutral. They're passive. And the only way to do that is to start pulling the structure from under them. So instead of asking about the updates and constantly checking in to see has he completed it, because that's what you're doing. You're doing what mothers do. Like you're doing what I'm gonna do with my daughter. Because this week we're applying for colleges. I'm gonna ask her and check in with her. Did she complete the essay? That's what a mother does. She's gonna make sure that her child is successful and that child is winning. You don't need to do that with the man. You could be, instead of going that route of trying to get the updates and reminding him, you, instead of asking him, hey, have you done this? Are you going to complete this? When is this going to happen? You could do what the feminine does. The feminine stands on it and believes it is done. She doesn't go in and address him in that way of, has it been done? She operates from the space, it is done because I am me and I have arrived. I feel like the feminine comes at it from a place of power. When, if let's say that he is supposed to have maybe we could, if you want to say he's supposed to take care of you have a problem with the maintenance man or something like that. You usually have stepped in and you addressed that problem, and had the conversation with the maintenance man. You've always settled those issues. Instead of you done that, you would come to him like, thank you for having that conversation with the maintenance man. I know I can depend on you. You know what he's going to do? He's going to panic. He's going to panic. He's going to be, I got to go do this. Let me go do this, because she's already thanking me for doing that. She's already, under the impression I've already done it, even if I haven't. He's going to panic and he's going to go handle that situation. Instead of you looking at it as though he hasn't done it or he will not do it, start operating from he's done it. And start being like, oh, thank you for doing that. I appreciate you doing that. Like, I just know that, it's done right. Like, don't come up from a place he hasn't done it. Being the feminine just operates in the space of he's done it. I know he's not going to want to disappoint me. I know he's going to show up for me. I know he's going to do what he's told he needs to do for me. So I want you to go into that space of being a feminine. And instead of trying to check in and get the updates from him, have you done this? Did you complete this? Just tell him thank you. Thank you for calling the maintenance man. I appreciate that. Or thank you for sending that email to that guy. Or thank you for making sure that bill is paid. I was so concerned because you know how I love my baths. I love taking those, comfortable baths. And I thank you for taking care of that. I appreciate that. Like, just come from perspective, he's already done it. If he hasn't done it, he's going to panic and he's going to go ahead and take care of it. Then you don't have to worry about trying to update him or nag him or complain to get it done. I want you to think of not mothering him, but coming from a place of where the feminine would come. I like that when he's done it. He's done it. That's what I want you to do. I want you to think from the perspective he's done it. It's done. And men don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to disappoint you. They want everything to work out with you, especially if they're in love with you. A lot of times the men who are very passive, they do love you, but they have accepted that you like things done your way. You like to solve your own problems. You don't necessarily need them, and men need to feel needed, or what they do, they tend to shut down and they're not present and they go into being passive and neutral. And if you don't desire that, then just pull the structure up from under him. Stop doing what you've been doing and operate from the feminine, where the feminine believes that the man has already done it because he's not going to want to disappoint me. Thanks so much. They go into conserve energy when you mother him. Absolutely. They go in there. Basically, it's almost like a robot shutting them down, because men don't like to be mothered. They don't like to be mothered. It's a part of their nature. It's a part of also their conditioning as men to not want to be mothered. And women make this mistake very early on. He loves you. He desires you. He adores you. But he's figured out the way to keep you around is to just do what you say and to allow you to solve problems, to allow you to guide, to allow you to teach. You basically step into that role. Wow, never heard anyone teaching it. Absolutely. Usually when I come across this topic, people are just talking about not reminding him about appointments, not doing certain things for him, like cooking or cleaning. And I'm telling you, y'all have usually women have a problem before it even gets to that level. They're already starting out in a place of being a mother. And you have to think on it. If you've ever, I know I have a lot of women who are not mothers, but women who are mothers, you understand where I'm coming from when it comes to correction that you have to do with your child, the um, nagging sometimes that you have to do to your child to get them to move forward, the push that you have to give your child. If you feel that you're doing it within your relationship, you're already killing your polarity, because polarity is the law, is the opposites. Opposites attract. Feminine and masculine attract. Yes, a man can shut down and be like a robot, and there is no attraction. And most feminine desire the attraction. We want it all. I've always said that the feminine is somewhat greedy and has some narcissistic tendencies. You are truly a gem. Thank you. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for coming over here and supporting the page. Make sure you all take time to like the video. We're gonna focus in on growing our YouTube family, our YouTube pedestal wives. But mothering is usually the problem in the very beginning. We just don't realize what it is because we only focus on things that don't matter, especially when it comes to social media. We focus on things that don't matter. So many topics get much of our attention that don't matter when it comes to commitment and union. And I want to focus in on the things that really matter, how you can avoid dealing with a man. And this is where the confusion sets in too. This is where I've come across women where they're mothering and he's passive, but he's a provider. And so they don't want to let him go. They want to maintain it. They just want the attraction, that juices that come from wanting each other, for having romance. They want all of that, but they don't know how to change the dynamic and reset the polarity. And I'm going to tell you, in order to change that dynamic and reset that polarity, you're going to have to pull the structure. You have put the structure in place. You need to pull it. All the little things that you've been doing and all the mothering you've been doing so far, you need to pull it and you need to approach it as though the feminine. And that is how you're going to reset that polarity. That is how you're going to get him to get back into that masculine, because he's providing. And I've met tons of couples like this where he's providing, but he's passive. There's no romance. There's no juiciness. There's no sparks. There's no butterflies. There's no attraction. And as the feminine, we want that. We desire that. And what can we do when he is not doing or forgot something crucial for the family? I remember your video about natural consequences. Oh, you just answered your question, babe. Natural consequences. If it's something that has to do with the family, the natural consequences of it is to let it happen and let him to deal with the consequences of his actions. When we try to save him, to make sure that he doesn't make a mistake or to make sure that nothing happens, this is also a form of mothering. So if you want to reset that polarity and you don't want to have to deal with a mother and a man, we have to allow natural consequences in the relationship. Natural consequences just means that he has to deal with the consequences of his own actions. This means no trying to save him, no trying to correct him, and no trying to make it right. Let him have to deal with the consequences. If it's something crucial to the family, and there's like how crucial are we talking about? How crucial are we talking about? Because if he's a man who's at least a provider, at least taking care of business, this marriage is actually worth saving. If he's just passive and he's just neutral, it's worth saving. He's not going to get you in a situation where y'all lose your home because he's a provider. So let's say maybe he forgets a important doctor's appointment. Then you can be like, oh, well, you can ask him, when are you going to schedule the doctor's appointment? Like, when, or don't ask him that way. Ask him, come from a place of he's already done it. What time is the doctor's appointment? What time is the doctor's appointment? What time do we need to be at this appointment? What time do we need to be there? Okay, where is it located at? Always come from a perspective of he is doing it. Yes, let them fail. That's the only way you're going to reset the polarity. And I know y'all want to, you don't want to have to deal with the consequences because maybe the consequences affect you. But I'm going to tell you, if you want to reset the polarity, there's only one way to go about it, and that's to pull the structure. You've created the structure. You are the glue that keeps it going. You have to stop being the glue. If you don't want to be the glue and you now want to be the sun that he gravitates around, then you have to pull it. You have to stop trying to save him. You have to let him deal with his natural consequences. You have to let him miss the appointment and have to reschedule. And then you ask him, what time is the appointment? Because you're going to come in from a perspective, he's already handled it. He's already done it. My ex told me his boss let him fail and it changed his life. He was so used to being saved because he was surrounded by women, mom, grandma, and older sisters. Because we're mothers. At the core, women are mothers. And mothering is not just feminine. There's a masculine aspect to mothering. So we're good at saving people and guiding people and teaching people and correcting people. We're good at solving problems also and leading people. But when we do that for a man, we invite the lack of polarity and killing of the attraction in the commitment and union. And most of us, we don't want that. We want that juicy attraction. We want them wanting to see us, want to tear our clothes off. We want them to want to romance us. We want them to want to seduce us. We want all of it. But what's happening, since women are with men who will pay bills, because that's what's happening. These men are paying bills now because the feminine gets the ick when the man ain't paying nothing. The feminine will get the ick and she will pull away and he's not even attractive. That is the very reason why finances is something that is something that also is one of the reasons that the people divorce. Is one of the I think number one reason, or is it number two reason? I think it's the number one reason that people divorce, because the feminine gets the ick when a man cannot take care of business. When he can't take care of business, everything kind of shuts down for the feminine. I've been around women where the man had cheated before multiple times, and she would take him back and they will start all over again. But baby, when he lost those finances, it was over. She was easily able to walk away because the feminine gets the ick and she gets turned off when this man cannot provide her anything. But mothering starts very early on. And the only thing you're going to have to do, you're going to have to allow a man to deal with the natural consequences and stop trying to save him. Stop trying to remind him of the things that he needs to do as a man. Stop trying to solve his problems and allow him to show up and solve yours and his. Allow him to show up and be able to, create the appointments and let him lead. Let him do his role. Let him be able to step in those shoes as a masculine energy and let him be able to lead. So I don't see any other questions, because as long as you all got questions, I'll stay up a little bit longer. But then I'm gonna close out because I want to make sure that I have enough time to go and eat my lunch, because I happen to be solo dolo without any kids to have lunch with today. They're all working or at events today. But it starts early on. It starts early on with the mothering, and we do it naturally because we've watched our mother's mother, we watch our grandmother's mother, we watch women in our family mother, and the little things that women do to mother, they don't even realize it is mothering. They think, oh, I'm just reminding him that he has a doctor's appointment. Oh, I'm just going to solve this issue so that he doesn't lose his opportunity to get this promotion. Oh, I'm just going to go ahead and fill out this application so he can get this job. And we're doing mothering. And then we're wondering years later on down the road, why am I not attracted to my husband? Why do I not want to get in between the sheets with him? Because there's no polarity, there's no attraction. You put yourself in a mother position. He's probably passive. Because if he was feminine, a lot of the feminine feminine men don't want to be with a feminine woman. So they tend to not be with you. But these men who were able to manage their lives before they got with you, and you jumped in that mothering energy, and now he's in this passive energy, that's what happens. And I'm guarantee if you were to really look around, you probably see, I know about 5 couples that have this dynamic. 5. I know personally, as a woman who is around married people, I know 5 couples who have that dynamic where the man is the woman is the mothering and the man is very passive. Even when you look at him, look in his eyes, he has what I call dead eyes. He's like, okay, dear. Yes, dear. In a minute, dear. I will do it, dear. If she said, how high you gonna jump? You probably, really high, dear. And to us, that's not attractive. To the feminine, it's not attractive. We don't want that guy that cannot lead himself. But he was successfully leading himself before you came on the scene. He was doing all the things. He's still paying bills right now, but he's passive. He's neutral. Because you're doing so much that all he doesn't have anything to do. You're doing so much and he's not needed. And this is a problem when it comes to the masculine. And then he breaks up with you for doing everything and find another who does nothing. Yes, Hesse. That's the way it works, because even he will get tired of not having attraction or that juiciness or not having the spark to want to romance his woman. And so he goes and gets someone, like I heard this scene on social media. I find it so funny because it's so fun. It's hilarious, where they'll say that a man would leave a woman with a degree and go get a woman with a birth certificate. That's the woman who's doing nothing. All she's done was being born. She's being born, and you run around with like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to make sure you do everything and make sure everything is perfect and make sure everything is taken care of. And you're mothering your man over there. Well, there's a woman right now, only thing she has is a birth certificate. She just was born. That's all. A little off topic. If your man doesn't touch base about a date to me, it doesn't exist. It doesn't. I personally, I feel like you should get a notification at least 24 hours before the date, and maybe in a text before it starts. He needs to be checking in religiously to make sure that y'all still have a date. If he makes a date for Monday and he doesn't connect, or he doesn't connect with you at all, and Monday come and you haven't heard from him, you're just gonna have to like, oh, that's a reschedule for me. That's not, hey, we're gonna get together. That's not, hey, that you're interested in that way. To me, honestly, I would look at it so he's not that interested. Because when men want something, they go after it. Like, I've never known a man that was interested in a woman for him to act like or play around with not connecting or contacting her. They really connect and contact very quickly. For real, he sure will. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like I said, I know 5 couples with this dynamic. And every time I try to have the conversation with her about how to change it, this is the reason why I don't offer free advice or put my nose where it does not belong. I really do drink my water and mind my business, because I've done it before, try to get them to see what the issue is. And the woman's like, no, how is it going to get done? It doesn't get done. That's the beauty of a reset. It doesn't get done. They have to deal with the natural consequences of their actions. And them dealing with that will actually wake them up and get them out of being passive and conserving energy and get them to being back in that natural masculine energy. Because I guarantee a lot of women did not get with that guy that wasn't able to lead himself. Most men were able to lead themselves. I know there's some that can't. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the men that can. They can lead themselves. They will lead themselves before you came. You know what? Before you came along, they were able to make their own doctor's appointments. Before you came along, they were able to solve their own problems. Before you came along, they were able to get things done without you reminding them. But now all of a sudden, when they're in a commitment or a union, you mean they are so clueless, they're so discombobulated, they're so incompetent that they can't get things done. I call BS. What has happened is he went into being neutral, into being passive, and you went into being mothering. And since he wanted you, and this is a testament of a man actually loving a woman, because you like, why would he just leave this woman? No, he loves her. He adores her. And he's figured out very quickly, in order to have her, he has to basically shut down, disengage, and become passive. And these are the people who be having 40, 50 years of marriage. And when I looked at that, I realized I don't desire that. That is not what I want. I want to be 23 years old, 23 years, not 23 years. I'm 43. I want to be 23 years in, and I want my husband to still chase me around the table. I want to be 23 years in, and I want my husband to still be attracted to me, to want to romance me, and to want to take me out to all these beautiful locations. And I want him to enjoy being around me so much, because I'm not mothering him. I'm not complaining. I'm not nagging him. And I trust him to be competent and do the things that he needs to do to show up in the masculine energy that he is. I want us to still have that attraction and that juiciness and those butterflies. And we still have all of that. But I still know couples who don't. And they do have the longevity. They have long marriages that are basically, I call them dead ends, dead end marriages, where they're together, they will never divorce, they're gonna die together, they're gonna still have commitment and union, but it will not have any attraction. They're pretty much friends at this stage in life. I don't want that at 40 years in marriage. I still want the same dynamic that I have at 23 years. It can turn dangerous too. Some call it sleeping with the enemy, especially when a woman is more successful. Absolutely. It sure can. All right, so I don't have anything else. I feel like we've been over an hour, but I want to have these conversations because I know that I have a lot of young ladies that's in my community. You're currently dating. I just don't want you to make these mistakes. I don't want you to go in mothering because you haven't been taught a lot about mothering energy and how you show up in that mothering energy unconsciously. I want you to, one of the ways to start really getting away from that energy is start to view men as competent and realize you're only going to date, mate, and marry competent men anyway. So you don't have to worry about a man being incompetent because you're only going to deal with competent men. And so you're going to move forward as though this man is competent enough to make his own appointments. He's competent enough to solve his own problems. He is competent enough to actually know where he's going in life and what he needs to do. You don't need to step in unless you're asked. And then even when you're asked, if you're going into the territory of mothering him and you feel as though you're getting into that mothering energy, you know you can decline. Just because you're asked to do something don't mean you have to do it. Don't mean you have to do it. You can literally say, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. That really doesn't sit right with me. You can be honest and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Like maybe you should go and reach out to your father, or maybe you should go and reach out to your mother, or maybe you should go out and reach out to your friend or to your boss. It depends on the situation. I'm trying to get away from generalizing. I'm in my 40s. How do I deal with people who look at me like I'm an alien for being single? I think you just get used to it. Instead of looking at it as though it's a liability, you look at it as though it's an asset. Look at it as though I'm 40s and I'm single and this is a good thing. I have so much to offer a man that's going to be my person. Stop looking at it as though it's a bad thing because you can't control what people think. People are going to think all kinds of things. I'm on social media as a public figure to a certain extent, even though I'm not a big one, but I'm still a public figure. And people make all kinds of assumptions. And instead of me being concerned about trying to, make sure that I knock down their assumptions or things that they believe about me, I just realized that those things are some good things that are about me anyway. Like, look at it as though it's an asset to be 40 and it's an asset to be wise. It's an asset to be at a date at this age versus looking at it what someone else is saying, because someone always gonna have something to say. They talk about Jesus. They're gonna talk about you. Yeah, you're not an alien. There's other women also who are older in this community, and they are single, and they're still waiting to let their person find them. So you're not alone. All right, so I am definitely an hour and 9 minutes out. So I'm going to go ahead and close out. I thank you, Pedestal Wives and Inner Circle members, for actually staying all the way to the end while I rambled on a little bit in this video. Take the time to make sure to like the video so that more women can come into this space so they can see this video. So maybe they don't make this mistake and we don't have a woman going into mothering energy in the very beginning, because women are doing it. They're coming in in the first date mothering a man. So I will see you all in the next one. You all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye.